Hey up guys, well as you can see I'm not in a motorhome yet. I just wanted to do an update about, how can I put this, how interesting it is looking at second-hand motorhomes. Just to set the scene, because not all of you will have watched previous videos. I have been trying to do quite a lot of shorts while I've been travelling, but the short version is I came over from Tenerife over to the UK via Spain and France. I just drove across, and the intention was stay with a friend in Yorkshire, then stay with another friend up in Sunderland, where I am now. As you can see, it's lovely and beautiful. Woo! I've been getting out on a morning and scraping the ice off the car. It's been interesting. But the reason I wanted to make this video is more as, how can I put this, not a warning, but just really a bit of advice for anybody that's thinking about buying a second-hand motorhome, and kind of the things. I mean, I'm no expert, not by any stretch of the imagination, but the things I've found have been very interesting. One example is quite often sellers will put an advert on, be it Gumtree, Auto Trader, Marketplace, whatever it might be. They're all the same, as far as I'm concerned. There's a lot of genuine sellers out there, and there's a lot of people who aren't quite so genuine. A good example is I see a lot of personal adverts for my beloved motorhome that I have to sell, and then I click on the link and I find out that they've got 20, 30 other motorhomes that they've sold. So clearly they're not a private seller, they're a trader. So that's a hard pass straight away, because it's pretty obvious what they're doing. It's not difficult to find this information out. One wanted to meet me in a car park. I'm like, okay, can I have a phone number? No. Can I have some means of contact, a landline, anything? No. So I met this guy in the car park, and I asked him why we're meeting in a car park, and he said, because I don't trust you. I said, why? Because I'm ringing from a Spanish number. I said, but I've just turned up in a Spanish car. I mean, I've travelled from Spain. What's unusual about that? I live in a world where I do business with people all over the world. It doesn't matter where they're from. I just ring them and I talk to them and I do business. It's not a difficult thing. So I found that a bit surprising. What I found more surprising was up in his window in the roof light, but we'll get on to that. it just beggars belief. Now, I'm not saying that everybody who sells a van knows there are problems with that van. As I think it was my father said to me many years ago, when you're buying second hand, you're buying somebody else's problems, and I understand that. It might be a good problem, like they're upgrading or they're moving country, or for whatever reason. It doesn't have to be like a bad thing. So my job, the way I see it as a prospective buyer, is to find those problems. Now, again, I'll say I am no expert. I really aren't. Prior to embarking on this journey, I did a lot of research, but I still had no idea. I thought, I'm going to go over there, I'm going to look at some vans, maybe 5-10 vans, and find one. Well, I think I've looked at about 20 so far, maybe 25. And in 25 vans, I found 2 that are bone dry. But of those 2, neither I have to laugh or I'm going to cry. Neither of them had a fridge that worked on gas. So I pointed them to their own advert, and it actually said, one of them said in capital letters, everything functions as it should. And I said, well, it should work on gas. Well, we've never used it on gas. I will. So yeah, and they weren't willing to drop the price. That was interesting. But the biggest problem is the dreaded damp. Now, sometimes it's really, really obvious. A good example would be the second van I looked at today, actually. I did a 1 hour round trip, so not really that much. Had a look at the van and never, ever, ever walk inside the van until I've looked round outside. Maybe that's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing. If you're in the trade, you tell me, because it's just what I do. I look around the sides, I look around the joints, I look if there's any damage, make sure all the seals are in place. If there are any seals missing, I make a mental note of them because I want to check inside at the other side. Check for rust, but we're looking at 20-year-old vans, so I know I'm going to find rust. It's not that big an issue. I do not expect a 20-year-old van to be in pristine condition, but what I do expect is that it's been maintained, or at least they've made an effort, to maintain it. So this second van that I looked around, it looks really nice until I got to the back corner at the top. Both sides had sealant missing, about, 6 inch of sealant missing. And I just asked him, I said, has somebody been pressure washing it, or is it just like, has that come out? He said, I don't know. It was my dad's and I had it. Oh, you don't know? Okay. I walked in the van. I went into the bathroom where one of the corners was, and the second I opened the door, I could smell the damp. It wasn't bad, but I could smell it, and I thought, if I can smell it, it's already too late. And the side wall had actually been replaced. It was plywood, just painted with, what do you call it? Is it polyurethane paint? So they've basically tanked that wall in an attempt to mask the damp. And that was interesting. I think I might have spent a whole 25 seconds in that van, and then I just said, it's a pass. So that kind of summarises the kind of vans I've been looking at. Some of them had very, very obvious damp issues. One, all down underneath the window, it was just rippled. It was dry to the touch, but fortunately, one of the things I did when I came over to the UK is I bought a damp meter. Now, I didn't buy a cheap one, I didn't buy an expensive one either. I didn't really want to spend £400 on a damp meter, or £500. Maybe I should. Considering the number of vans I've looked at, it would definitely be worth it. I would say if you're going to look at more than 5 or 10 vans, invest the money, it's worth it. The one I bought, I think, was about £80, and it has prongs, but it also has a detector on the back, because there's no way I really want to be sticking prongs in somebody else's home, in effect, because it's a home on wheels. And there's been a few people that I've turned up to, and I've got the damp, or rather the moisture meter out, to use its correct term, and they've looked very surprised and a little bit concerned. And then I've gone to the area that I think might have damp, because I've looked outside and I've seen where there might be possible areas of water ingress. Put the damp meter against it, and I get the dreaded damp score of like 99.9%. Now, again, I reiterate, I'm no expert, but I do know that the meters can give a false positive if they're reflecting back off a metal stud, for example, or a metal strip or frame or something like that. So if I find damp in a line, there's a couple of things I would do. I would go over to one side and over to the other, see if I get similar readings or slightly lower readings. But if I get no reading, that tells me that there might be something there. But another thing I do, depending on the construction of the van, is if it's a similar design on the opposite side, I go over to that side and I check there as well, just to see if there's any damp in the same area or a reading in the same area, which could indicate it's just a structural thing that the moisture meter is reflecting off. But unfortunately, and it really irritates me that some people have vans with very obvious, very clear signs of damp and mould, and they don't put it in the advert. Why? I mean, why wouldn't you do that? Anybody with a modicum of intelligence would walk into a van, smell it, look at it and say, oh, there's damp. Oh, yeah. And then the owner will say something like, oh, yeah, I didn't know about that. Come on. The one I went to see this morning, that was funny. I walked around the outside of the van and it actually looked quite nice. The seals all seemed okay. But I asked him if I could have a quick look up on the roof, as I always do. If there's a ladder, I'll ask first and then I climb up, but I don't walk on the roof, I just look and I might take a photograph. And I looked up on the roof and there was a long line of moss on the leading edge of the skylight. And I thought, okay, well, it's not a showstopper, you just clean it. But I wonder if that has eaten away into the sealant. So I went inside the van, put my moisture meter at the other side of the roof. Lo and behold, all the way around that window, that skylight showed damp. The right hand wall, the back wall, all the way down that corner. And then I looked over to the lounge and the left hand window, and it was just rippled all the way under the window. I think that was 20 seconds, maybe 30 at a push. I'm getting really how can I put this? not brutal, but I've got an idea what I want to look for. So I just go straight to it. I'm polite with it and everything, but I just need to get to that part of the van and look at it. Because for me, it just saves so much time and hassle. If I can find that problem very early, then it just saves so much hassle later down the line. Now here's another thing. I always ask them if they have a habitation report. Quite a lot don't. Okay, that doesn't bother me. I'll just bring my moisture meter and I'll check. And if I'm serious about buying the vehicle, then why not? I'll spend the money on a proper habitation check, because I can't check the gas system. I can't check that it's maintaining pressure. I can't check that the oven is burning correctly, the heater is working correctly, and the fridge is working correctly. I mean the flue area. But what I can do is check that these things function. It's not difficult. You turn the burner on the oven, make sure the flames are the right colour. But there's quite a few that just they've been on hookup all their life, so they've never used the fridge on gas. So one thing I do say is, can you turn the fridge on gas before I get there? And there's a few that I've turned up to and they've actually said, oh, I couldn't get it working on gas. But they've let me drive 3 hours to get there. I really wish they would have told me before I turned up. And like I said, I could be angry, but it's not worth it. Life's too short. There is the right van out there. I know this. I will find it. I just don't know when. So what else? That's pretty much it. I'll just make it a short video. It has been frustrating. Some people have willfully deceived me, and not deceived us, me and my partner, by not disclosing things that didn't work, or not disclosing damp that was really obvious. However, there's a lot of people out there that have motorhomes that they bought during COVID or shortly after COVID, and they haven't maintained them because they don't know how, and the damp has got into the fabric of the walls. and now they're left with a vehicle that's worth probably a quarter to a half what it was when they bought it, which is a real shame. And another thing that concerns me, and it's the main reason for making this video, is that there are a lot of people out there with money in their pockets looking for second-hand motorhomes, and they do not know what to look for. So my suggestion would be go on the forums on Facebook. I use Facebook myself. Ask friends that have motorhomes. Not everybody is as fortunate as I am, in as much that the first couple of vans I went to see, I took my brother with me. He just happens to be a HGV MOT tester. So he could see very quickly if there was a problem. One that we looked at, he actually said to the owner, there's no way this vehicle should be on the road. It shouldn't have passed an MOT. I looked at a vehicle just 3 days ago and the guy offered to test drive it, and when I looked at the tyres, it had truck tyres from 1998, so 26 years old, and I said, oh, I think I'll pass on the test drive, thank you very much. Because if a wheel pops when I'm driving it, A, I'll feel responsible, and B, the insurance likely won't cover it. So yeah, my suggestion would be do your research, shop around, and yeah, why not get a moisture meter and just have a look. But I'm not letting the moisture meter make the decision for me, because the damp might not actually be as bad as I think, but it will tell me where to look, and I can always pay for somebody to do a proper habitation check and check everything, not just for damp. That's money well spent, in my opinion. It's just that at the moment, if I did that for every vehicle I looked at, I would probably have spent about £6,000. I'm not spending £6,000 on habitation checks. Sorry. Any questions, guys? Put it in the comments. Currently, I am in, I was going to say sunny Sunderland. It isn't so sunny. It's cold, it's bitter, but it's nice. I like it. Don't know where I'm going to be over the next couple of days. I was up Scotland a few days ago. Did about 500 miles, I think. 9 hours driving, something like that. Down in South Yorkshire, Lincolnshire. Been all over. It's been interesting. And another thing is whether you should deal with a trader or private. And for me, personally speaking, makes no difference. If I'm buying private, I'm going to get it cheaper. Yeah, I know that. If I buy from a trader, I'm going to get a warranty. Well, a warranty is not worth the paper it's written on if you're 2,000 miles away driving on the continent. It's going to get a habitation check. Well, okay, that's a few £100. I can get my own habitation check. That's my point anyway. This is, why I'm not that bothered about whether I buy from trade or private. In fact, I had a chat with a trader just this morning, and I said to him, look, I like the van, and in an ideal scenario, if I buy it, you'll never see me again, because I'll be too far away to get the problem fixed if there's a problem comes up under warranty, and I'm willing to get my own habitation check done anyway. So there we go. Like I said, guys, any questions, stick them in the comments and keep on trucking.